You don't attract what you wish for, you attract what you focus on. Focus is not some passive idea. It's a spiritual force that works like a magnet. Your thoughts have energy, your attention has direction. It helps us. And when you combine the two with faith and expectation, you begin to draw in the very things you dwell on. Most people are living lives they never asked for, not because they wanted mediocrity, but because their focus was trapped in fear, lack, and survival. What you continuously focus on becomes the dominant energy of your life, and that energy produces outcomes, whether you're conscious of it or not. When you focus on problems, you attract more problems. It's not the situation that grows, it's your magnification of it. People often say, I'm stuck. But the truth is, as it helps us, you're not stuck. You're focused on being stuck. You've rehearsed the limitations so many times that you've made them real. You've talked yourself out of opportunities because your attention is fixed on everything that could go wrong instead of what could go right. You've built mental strongholds of fear and doubt that keep you in cycles of delay. And here's the truth, your focus is not random, it's a choice. And until you choose to shift it, nothing changes. As it helps us, you've got to understand that you are the one setting the atmosphere of your life. You're either setting it to greatness or defaulting to average. Most people live like thermometers. They react to the temperature around them. If life's cold, they shrink. If people are negative, they complain. If the money slows down, they panic. But winners live like thermostats. They don't ask, what's the temperature? They decide, here's what it's going to be. They adjust their focus, set the level, and operate from a place of internal control instead of external chaos. And the moment you take that kind of authority over your focus, your life begins to follow. One of the greatest enemies of your focus is distraction. Not all distractions look like destruction. Some look like opportunities. But the difference is this: if it doesn't move you toward your purpose, it's not an opportunity. It's a trap. We live in a world that rewards divided attention. As it helps us, your phone rings, your notifications ping, your feed scrolls endlessly. And while you're consuming everyone else's life, your vision is fading. Your destiny doesn't die in a moment. It dies in thousands of distracted decisions that feel harmless in the moment. But focus, real, disciplined, intentional focus, is the door to destiny. You don't need more talent. You don't need another course. You need to fix your focus, because when you focus your mind, your spirit, and your energy on one thing with clarity and commitment, you activate a force that opens doors no man can shut. Creativity starts to flow, ideas begin to multiply, favor increases, and things that once looked impossible suddenly become reachable. That's not magic, that's movement. Focused people are dangerous, not because they have everything figured out, but because they refuse to be pulled in 1,000 directions by mediocrity. Every time you speak about what's not working, you feed it. Every time you dwell on what you don't have, you multiply lack. But when you choose to focus on value, on how you can serve, how you can grow, how you can solve problems, you shift into abundance. Value attracts wealth. Contribution attracts favor. Service attracts significance. The world doesn't reward effort alone. It rewards focus that leads to results. When you bring massive focus to your value, your vision becomes valuable to others, and people begin to pay you for your purpose. Some of you are waiting for everything to feel right before you take the leap, but focus is not about waiting. It's about deciding. You decide that you're done entertaining fear. You decide that you're done playing small. You decide that this is the season you master your mind instead of letting your mind master you. Focus gives you the power to ignore the noise and tap into the signal. It clears the fog and sharpens your steps. You start showing up different. You start talking different. You start attracting different because your mind is no longer scattered. It's locked in on the mission. When you focus on problems, you invite them to grow. Not because they're getting worse, because your attention is feeding them. You begin to magnify the issue instead of mastering it. The human mind was not created to dwell on chaos. It was built to solve problems and create solutions. But if your energy is constantly fixed on everything that's going wrong, you eventually start to believe that wrong is your normal. You train your brain to look for trouble. You condition your emotions to expect defeat. And what was once a passing difficulty becomes a permanent identity, all because you gave it your full focus. You can't keep focusing on what's broken and expect to live whole. Your thoughts are not just observations, they're instructions to your reality. Every time you say, I'm stuck, I'm lost, nothing ever works out, you're writing a script your life is forced to perform. What you meditate on becomes your mission. If your mind is full of limitations, your life will mirror that constraint. It's not the circumstances that are holding you back. It's the way you've learned to see them. You've put more faith in the obstacle than the opportunity, and your focus has locked you into a place you were never meant to stay. If you find yourself frustrated, overwhelmed, or constantly behind, it's time to check your focus. The human spirit is capable of incredible things when it is aligned, clear, and committed. But clarity cannot coexist with confusion. You can't focus on fear and faith at the same time. You can't obsess over what you don't have and expect to attract abundance. Your mental energy is limited, and wherever you send it consistently becomes the dominant narrative of your life. If you're constantly feeding insecurity, it's no wonder confidence is starving. Focus determines the frequency your life operates on. And most people are stuck in struggle because they've tuned their focus to scarcity. You've rehearsed the pain so much that it feels more familiar than the promise. You've given more attention to your history than your destiny. And as long as your focus remains in reverse, your life cannot move forward. You may say you want change, but focus doesn't lie. You will always drift in the direction of your dominant thoughts. Even when you try to take action, your focus will pull you back to where your belief system feels safe. That's why many people sabotage progress. They're mentally loyal to the struggle because that's what they know. Your focus forms patterns, and those patterns build prisons. It's not enough to desire success. You must train your focus to expect it. Expectation is a form of faith, and faith cannot function where doubt dominates. You cannot attract wealth while fixated on worry. You cannot build legacy while obsessed with lack. There has to be a shift in what you fix your eyes on daily. Stop waking up and immediately feeding your mind more noise. The first thing you look at in the morning sets your emotional compass. If you begin your day with doubt, confusion, or comparison, you'll spend the rest of the day reacting instead of leading. Your focus must be protected like a sacred space because your entire future flows from it. People wonder why their life keeps repeating cycles. It's not luck or fate, it's focus. If you keep focusing on betrayal, you'll never trust again. If you keep focusing on failure, you'll hesitate when opportunity knocks. Life will only stretch to the level your focus allows. Some of the greatest breakthroughs are missed not because they weren't available, but because the person wasn't focused enough to recognize them. Opportunity doesn't always show up in neon lights. Sometimes it whispers through clarity. And if your mind is crowded, you'll miss the moment that could have changed everything. Most of the battles people are fighting are battles of attention. Your peace, your progress, your prosperity, it's all a matter of where your attention is anchored. You cannot win a war with a wandering mind. You have to discipline your thoughts, because if you don't, the world will do it for you. The media, the culture, the chaos, everything around you is designed to hijack your focus. But you are not powerless. You were designed with the authority to choose. Every day is an invitation to decide whether you will focus on what you can't control or what you can create. And that choice will define the direction of your life. So when you say you're stuck, ask yourself, what are you focused on? Are you rehearsing the worst case scenario? Are you meditating on the mistake instead of the message? Focus is the soil where your future is planted. If all you're feeded is fear, don't be surprised when anxiety grows. But if you water it with faith, persistence, vision, and purpose, what blooms will be unstoppable. You don't need a new beginning. You need a new lens. Shift your focus, and the entire landscape of your life begins to change. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because your focus finally got stronger. You have to realize that your life isn't just reacting to what's around you. It's responding to what's within you. Most people don't understand the power they carry because they've never been taught that they are the ones setting the atmosphere. They think life is happening to them, but the truth is life is echoing back to them what they're focused on. You're not just a participant in this game, you're the one adjusting the levels. You're the one tuning the frequency. And if you don't like what you're experiencing, it's not always about changing the environment. It's about changing the internal thermostat. A thermometer only tells you the temperature. It reacts to whatever's around it. And that's how most people live. Reactive, emotional, and constantly shifting based on what others say or what circumstances throw their way. If someone disrespects them, their mood drops. If money's tight, they shrink back. If things don't go their way, they stop showing up. That's thermometer living, always controlled by external forces. But thermostats, they set the temperature. They're not reactive, they're proactive. They walk into rooms and change the climate. They don't just survive, they lead. And the difference is found in focus. When you know who you are and where you're going, you stop letting outside noise dictate your inside decisions. You stop allowing temporary discomfort to pull you off course. Because your focus is fixed, your vision is firm. You've already made the internal decision about what the atmosphere of your life is going to be, and now everything around you has to adjust. That's the mindset of a thermostat. It doesn't ignore challenges. It overrides them. It doesn't pretend the storm doesn't exist. It just refuses to bow to it. And that kind of internal control is only available when you train your focus to lead and not follow. So many people want change, but they're still living in reaction. They say they want success, but they focus on fear. They say they want peace, but they give their energy to conflict. You can't be pulled in two directions and expect momentum. Double-minded focus creates a stagnant life. It creates frustration because your energy is split between desire and doubt. And as long as you let external circumstances define your internal settings, you'll stay in cycles that feel like you're moving, but never actually arrive anywhere. It's like spinning in place with your feet on the gas. Energy is being used, but no real progress is being made. Your focus is the steering wheel of your life. And the more intentional you become with it, the more authority you begin to walk in. But it doesn't come automatically. Focus is not something you casually hope for. It's something you build. You build it by what you feed your mind. You build it by what you say no to. You build it by refusing to be tossed back and forth by everything happening around you. You begin to realize that no matter how crazy the world is, you still have the power to decide what you're going to focus on. And that decision alone will begin to shape your entire reality. People who live at high levels don't live without problems. They just refuse to be controlled by them. They've made the internal adjustment to operate like thermostats. They don't need everything to be perfect before they perform. They don't require applause to stay committed. They don't wait for motivation. They move from mission because their internal focus is already set. Their internal thermostat has already been decided. And no matter what the weather is outside, they stay consistent, grounded, and locked in. That's the difference between those who lead their life and those who are constantly being led by it. Living as a thermostat also means you're responsible for the energy you bring. You can't walk into rooms expecting people to lift you up when you haven't made the decision to bring power with you. Leadership isn't just about what you say. It's about the frequency you carry. And people can feel it. They can sense when you're focused. They can sense when you've done the inner work. They can sense when you walk in the room, whether you're reacting to life or creating it. And the truth is, people follow thermostats. They follow those who carry the presence of certainty, clarity, and confidence. If your life feels out of control, it's time to stop asking the world to change and start shifting the settings on the inside. You don't have to wait for peace to come. You can create it. You don't have to wait for the right opportunity. You can focus yourself into the kind of person that attracts it. But none of that happens by accident. It happens by decision. It happens when you choose to stop living in emotional reaction and start leading with focused intention. Because once your focus is set, everything else around you begins to respond. Distraction is one of the most deceptive enemies of greatness. It doesn't always show up dressed as destruction. Sometimes it wears the disguise of productivity. It looks like another project, another idea, another opinion, another voice trying to get your attention. But its goal is the same: to divide your energy and scatter your focus. And once your focus is scattered, your power is diluted. Distraction doesn't have to destroy you to defeat you. All it has to do is keep you busied, confused, or entertained just long enough that you never step fully into what you were created to build. In today's world, attention is currency. Everybody wants yours. Social media is engineered to keep you clicking. News cycles are designed to keep you triggered. Notifications are programmed to keep you distracted. You're not just scrolling, you're being shaped. You're not just watching. You're being wired. Every moment you give your attention away to something that doesn't serve your purpose, you weaken your alignment. You lose a little more clarity. You drain a little more energy. And over time, your destiny isn't denied. It's just delayed, one distracted decision at a time. The most dangerous distractions are not the obvious ones. They're the ones that feel important. The ones that look like they need your attention, but are actually stealing it from what matters most. A meeting that could have been an email. A conversation rooted in drama instead of destiny. A problem that's not even yours to solve. These distractions are subtle, but they're costly. They consume the bandwidth your vision requires. They take time from the development of your gift. They rob you of the stillness necessary for deep thinking, clear strategy, and powerful creation. You don't just need more hours in the day, you need more focus in the hours you already have. Because time is not your most limited resource, attention is. And wherever your attention goes, your life follows. You can't be effective if you're always available. You can't build anything legendary if you're constantly responding to everything urgent. Every yes you give to a distraction is a no to your calling. And until you start protecting your focus with the same intensity you protect your money, your destiny will always be at the mercy of noise. Focus requires discipline, and discipline feels uncomfortable at first because it confronts your patterns. It calls you to turn off what everyone else is tuned into. It demands you disconnect from the distractions the world celebrates so you can plug into the deeper power of your purpose. Focus requires boundaries. It means choosing to miss out on the things that don't move the needle, even if they're popular. It means staying faithful to your goals in silence while the world chases likes and applause. Focus is not glamorous. It doesn't always look productive, but it's the secret ingredient behind every extraordinary outcome. If you want to produce at a high level, you have to learn how to protect your focus like it's sacred, because it is. You can't keep planting seeds in shallow soil and expecting deep roots. Every time you break concentration to chase another thought, another text, another fear, you uproot your momentum, and you don't get to harvest what you haven't cultivated with consistency. The people who rise to the top of their industries, the leaders who change lives, the visionaries who shift culture, they all have this in common. They ruthlessly eliminate distraction and anchor their minds in focus. There will always be something trying to pull your attention away. Always. The difference between those who succeed and those who settle is how they respond to that pull. Do they give in to the urge to check, to scroll, to compare, to overthink? Or do they train themselves to stay locked in? You won't feel like focusing every day. You won't always be inspired. But that's where your decision becomes more powerful than your emotion. You don't need perfect conditions. You need consistent concentration. And that's a skill you build, not a feeling you wait for. Everything you were meant to do, every gift, every dream, every divine assignment, it's all waiting on your focus. Not your effort alone, not your passion alone, your focus. Because passion without focus burns out. Talent without focus gets distracted. Desire without focus leads nowhere. It's not about doing more, it's about doing less of what doesn't matter, so you can give everything to what does. That is how results are created. That is how power is accessed. That is how purpose begins to shape the world through you.